Welcome back as we take you to a very deep and amazing journey of relaxation of Bedtime Story. Please like and subscribe to the channel so we can get your request on a story you want to listen to. Before we start, make sure you are very comfortable and in a very warm spot. Take a deep breath and make sure to focus your mind entirely on your breathing, forgetting about your worries in this short while as you get the best treatment you can give your brain. Okay, let's begin. In a vast and wondrous world where endless oceans stretch out like a blanket of shimmering blue under the sun-kissed skies, there exists an enthralling tale of high seas excitement that has captured hearts far and wide, evolving into a beloved saga of bravery, friendship, and unyielding dreams. At the center of this grand narrative is a spirited young adventurer named Luffy, whose boundless energy and unbreakable spirit drive him toward one magnificent goal: to claim the title of the ultimate ruler of all pirates, a position of legendary renown that promises freedom and discovery beyond imagination. Luffy's journey begins in a quaint coastal village, where as a boy he encounters tales of great seafarers and hidden treasures that ignite a fire within his soul, compelling him to set sail on his own path of wonder. What makes this story so captivating is its transformation into a global sensation, drawing in countless admirers who find inspiration in its themes of perseverance and camaraderie, as it unfolds as an ever-growing epic about a band of unlikely companions who band together under Luffy's charismatic leadership to form a devoted team known as the Straw Hats. These misfits, each with their own unique backgrounds and aspirations, come from diverse corners of the world. Some are skilled swordsmen honing their blades with precision. Others are clever navigators charting courses through stormy waters. And there are even inventive cooks whipping up meals that fuel their adventures, all united by a shared vision of exploring the unknown and supporting Luffy in his quest. As the story progresses, Luffy and his crew navigate treacherous seas filled with mysterious islands, each one holding secrets of ancient civilizations, forgotten ruins, and mythical creatures that test their resolve in gentle waves of challenge and growth. Picture the serene moments when they dock at peaceful harbors, sharing stories under starry nights, or the thrilling yet harmonious pursuits where they outsmart rival crews with clever strategies rather than sheer force, always emphasizing the bonds that tie them together like threads in a cozy tapestry. The world they inhabit is rich with lore, from the Grand Line, a legendary route teeming with wonders and perils, to hidden enclaves where alliances are forged and dreams are realized, all while Luffy's infectious enthusiasm encourages his friends to overcome personal hurdles, whether it's conquering fears of the deep or mastering new abilities that enhance their collective strength. This narrative isn't just about piracy. It's a soothing exploration of self-discovery, where characters like Zoro, the determined swordsman aiming to be the world's greatest, or Nami, the brilliant mapmaker with a passion for weather and navigation, find their places in a family-like group that values loyalty above all. As they sail onward, encountering benevolent allies and quirky adversaries, the story weaves in elements of humor and heart, such as light-hearted banquets on their ship, the Going Merry, where laughter echoes across the waves, or quiet reflections during calm voyages that allow for personal growth amidst the adventure. Luffy's rubber-like abilities, gained from a mystical fruit that grants him elasticity, add a layer of whimsy, enabling him to stretch and bounce through obstacles with playful resilience, symbolizing the flexibility needed to adapt to life's unpredictable tides. The Straw Hats' journey takes them to vibrant locales like Alabasta, a desert kingdom with golden sands and ancient mysteries, where they aid in restoring peace and justice, or the sky-high islands of Skypiea, floating realms of clouds and ethereal beauty that inspire awe and wonder. Throughout, the tale highlights themes of freedom, as Luffy rejects oppressive forces and champions the right to chase one's dreams, creating a relaxing rhythm of triumphs and setbacks that mirror the gentle ebb and flow of ocean currents. Fans around the world connect deeply with this ongoing saga, finding solace in its messages of unity and determination, as the crew expands with members like Usopp, the inventive storyteller with a knack for gadgets, or Sanji, the chivalrous chef whose culinary skills bring comfort during long sails. Each adventure builds upon the last, from battling sea kings in turbulent waters to uncovering maps leading to the fabled One Piece treasure, a prize said to hold the key to ultimate pirate glory, all presented in a way that invites listeners to relax into the narrative's warm embrace. As the Straw Hats forge ahead, their ship cutting through misty mornings and golden sunsets, the story reminds us of the joy in pursuing passions with trusted friends, turning every challenge into an opportunity for heartfelt connections and peaceful resolutions. Imagine the soft sway of the deck underfoot, the distant call of seabirds, and the camaraderie that makes every voyage feel like a homecoming, allowing your mind to drift effortlessly into tranquility as we delve deeper into this timeless tale of aspiration and alliance on the boundless seas. As the saga of Luffy and his Straw Hat companions continues to unfold across the expansive horizons of their oceanic world, it blossoms into a mesmerizing chronicle of growth, exploration, and the enduring power of dreams, resonating as a timeless beacon for those who seek adventure wrapped in layers of inspiration and serenity. Luffy, with his ever-optimistic grin and unwavering resolve to become the sovereign of all pirates, leads his eclectic group through a series of enchanting escapades that blend excitement with moments of quiet reflection, always prioritizing the harmony of their makeshift family over conquest. The narrative expands to include thrilling yet balanced encounters in places like Water 7, a bustling city of waterways and shipwrights where the crew acquires a new vessel, the Thousand Sunny, symbolizing renewal and the strengthening of their unbreakable bonds. Here, they meet allies like Franky, the cyborg engineer whose innovative designs propel their journeys forward, adding a touch of mechanical wonder to their seafaring lifestyle. The story's global appeal lies in its ability to draw millions into a cultural tapestry of hope, where misfits from all walks of life, such as Chopper, the reindeer doctor with a heart of gold and medical expertise that heals both body and spirit, or Robin, the scholarly archaeologist unraveling ancient texts to reveal lost histories, find purpose and belonging within the Straw Hats' fold. Sailing through the perilous yet beautiful stretches of the New World, the second half of the Grand Line, Luffy and his crew face trials that test their mettle. From navigating foggy labyrinths teeming with exotic marine life to forging pacts with other pirate bands in grand alliances against common foes, all while maintaining a spirit of fun and fairness that soothes the soul. Envision the peaceful interludes on sun-drenched beaches, where the group shares dreams around crackling campfires, or the strategic dances of combat that resolve with mutual respect rather than lasting enmity, emphasizing growth over destruction. Luffy's quest for the One Piece, that elusive artifact promising unparalleled freedom, drives the plot forward, but it's the interpersonal dynamics that truly enchant, like Brook, the skeletal musician whose melodies lift spirits during stormy nights, or Jimbei, the fishman warrior whose wisdom guides them through underwater realms. The world building invites relaxation, with vivid descriptions of serene archipelagos like Fishman Island, a submerged paradise of coral reefs and merfolk cultures, where themes of equality and understanding prevail, or the revolutionary undercurrents in Dressrosa, a kingdom of toys and intrigue that highlights the fight for justice in a whimsical light. As a cultural juggernaut, this epic draws fans into its fold by portraying a band of dreamers who, despite their quirks and pasts, come together to challenge tyrannical forces like the world government, all while exploring islands brimming with unique flora, fauna, and festivals that celebrate life's joys. The Straw Hats' adventures often lead to heartfelt revelations, such as Luffy's encounters with his brothers Ace and Sabo, weaving in tales of familial ties that add emotional depth without overwhelming the listener, allowing for a gentle unwind as the narrative flows like a calm river. From the bustling markets of Sabaody Archipelago, where bubbles float lazily in the air, to the volcanic challenges of Punk Hazard, each locale serves as a backdrop for personal evolution, with Luffy's rubber powers evolving alongside his leadership, inspiring his crew to push their limits in harmonious ways. This ongoing story, cherished by enthusiasts everywhere, transforms simple piracy motifs into profound lessons on friendship, as seen in arcs like Thriller Bark, a ghostly ship of shadows and laughter, or Whole Cake Island, a confectionery domain ruled by the formidable Big Mom, where culinary battles blend with themes of heritage and redemption. Through it all, Luffy's aspiration to be king of the pirates remains a soothing anchor, reminding us that true strength lies in the connections we nurture, much like the crew's unwavering support during moments of doubt, creating a narrative cocoon of comfort and motivation. As they chase horizons painted in hues of dawn and dusk, the tale encourages letting go of daily stresses, inviting you to imagine the whisper of sails in the wind, the taste of sea salt on the breeze, and the warmth of shared victories that make every setback a stepping stone to greater peace. With each chapter, the Straw Hats grow not just in number but in depth, incorporating figures like Vivi, the princess who aids them in Alabasta, or allies from the Heart Pirates, fostering a web of relationships that mirrors the interconnectedness of dreams. This paraphrased rendition captures the essence of an enduring phenomenon, where a young man's quest unites a ragtag group in pursuit of the ultimate treasure, all while sailing through a world of wonder that promotes relaxation and introspection, ensuring that as you listen, your mind sails smoothly toward restful slumber, carried by the gentle waves of this captivating, original bedtime voyage.